Good morning. Welcome to Your Life Atelier. So this is the Life Atelier, but it's also your Life Atelier because it's your space to come and work on your life each day, whether you're doing that just with the podcast here on YouTube or inside the community as well. So today's task, it's day 5 of the Prune Bloom challenge, is all about creating the space for your inner cheerleader to be the loudest voice in your head. So how we do that is we're going to prune your inner critic. Now, I'm going to talk about 2 ways to do this, okay? And it's kind of one is the foundation that supports the other. So the first thing we want to do is we just want to notice that there are multiple voices in our heads, okay? There's the little voice sometimes that says, you can do it, we can do this, or like, this is a great idea. And then there's also the voice that says, no, this is a terrible idea. You can't do this. Remember last time, it never works out, right? And that second voice, the one that says, this is a terrible idea, you can't do this, you've tried this in the past, you failed before, you're never able to do these things. Usually that's either not from us, it's something that we've picked up in our childhood or in past experiences, or it's our brain perceiving that we're about to do something new and saying, put the brakes on, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, this is dangerous, this is scary. Now, if it's the second voice, we've talked about this, we'll talk about it again. We don't need to follow it. We can hear it. Fear is a very useful tool. It's a very useful mechanism. We want to experience fear, but we don't then need to act on the fear, okay? If it's the first one and it's just the voice that is from other people, it's the voice, the inner critic that we've picked up throughout our life, we want to overwrite it and just like make it more quiet, okay? So the first thing we can do is interrupt it. So as soon as we hear that voice saying, you can't do this, we can argue with it and we can say, well, is that true? I've actually done other things in the past that were new and that were difficult. I do think I have this capacity as well. We can build up evidence to make it quiet, and we can say, I'm not going to listen to you today, and here's why. I've got 3 pieces of evidence that show that I am able to do these things and I'm able to get support. But we can't access those tools if our nervous system is activated. Okay, so our central nervous system, when our central nervous system is activated, we're either going into fight or flight or we're going into freeze. So what we want to do is put our hand on our chest and just notice, okay, this feels activated. We know it's activated if our heartbeat feels like it's going faster than normal. Maybe we have slightly sweaty palms. We might feel like tightness. As I've mentioned many times, I tend to get a shooting pain along my neck. Really fun, really, really fun. Okay, and so what we can do is just take a moment. As soon as we put our hand on our chest, you can also, if it's really bad, you can hug yourself. But that's not as easy to do if this is happening in front of people. So we can do that. As soon as we do that, our brain starts to release the love hormone, oxytocin. And what that does is it then switches and redirects, switches off the cortisol and the stress hormone that's flooding you with this fight or flight response that you're having. So we get that hormone going, doing its business, whatever it is doing, okay? And we can also then say, okay, I know what's happening. And again, once we say, I know what's happening, so if you think about when your central nervous system is freaking out, it's like it thinks there's a really big problem and you need to know because you need to move or you need to fight. And as long as you ignore it, it's going to keep shouting, okay? Because it really thinks there's a very big threat. So if you think about someone you love, someone you're responsible for, and you can see that there's a person with a gun or there's a tiger or a hippo, they're quite scary actually, or a rhinoceros, right? If they say to you, yeah, shut up, you're not going to suddenly not respond. You're going to be like, no, no, you need to listen. There is a hippo, an angry looking hippo. There's nothing between the hippo and us. Like, you need to pay attention to this. And you're going to keep shouting. So what we're doing when we say, I know what's happening, is we're saying to our nervous system, all right, I'm listening. What's the threat? Okay, let's acknowledge this. And then a process starts of calming, okay? And then what happens is we get our processing, problem-solving part of the brain comes back online, right? And that then creates the space for our inner cheerleader. And our inner cheerleader can then have a look and say, hey, it's okay. Like, I know you think that it's a hippo, but it's a man in a hippo suit. It's our neighbor, Charles. He does this all the time, right? And I have a very real reference for this. My best friend in New York has an outfit that is her dog. So she can dress up as her dog. And I find it terrifying. It really scares me. My brain does not like it at all. But what I can do when she's doing it, and I can physically feel myself like freeze and back away, is I can start to coax myself. Like as soon as I realize, okay, it's all right, it's just your best friend wearing the bloody costume, I can start to persuade myself, like, come on, we can handle this. We can go a bit closer. It's okay. Look, she's taking the dog head off. It's all good, right? And our inner cheerleader can then start to help us and to support us and to kind of big us up so that we start to get that brave feeling back. And once that cheerleader voice is louder, the critic starts to be quieter, which is really fun. And that's where we get to start doing the things that we want to do, even if they're scary. Okay. So your action step today is just to notice who's speaking in your head when you're thinking of doing something, whether it's doing exercise or doing a task that you're procrastinating over or you're feeling bad about, or making a phone call. Which voice comes up first? Is it the inner critic or the inner cheerleader, right? And if it's the inner critic, what do you want to replace that voice with? How do you want to interrupt it? Do the body check-in. Just notice how your nervous system is feeling and see if you can stay with that feeling and get to that place of, I know what's going on. It's okay. Let's see what the cheerleader has to say. Okay. Now, if you are already in the challenge, come and share your action step in the community. If you're not joining the challenge yet and you're just watching this for the first time, you can sign up, or listening to, you can sign up. There'll be an email link, and then you can get these daily challenges in our community. And if you are ready to dive deeper, I love this image of sort of leaping into coaching. Anyone who signs up for the Prune Bloom membership or the Fluid English Studio today will get a 90-minute one-to-one session with me where we're going to map out your goal, your dream project for the next 3 months, and we're going to create an action plan of action steps to take over those 90 days. You can book it anytime in the next 6 months. I'll give you a calendar link, so don't feel like you have to book it immediately. And I will see you tomorrow.